Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. This is a topic that I've talked about on the podcast with other guests and like also like solo things as well too. But I just think it's such a terrible thing in the marketing space that you see a lot of very mechanistic people that are attracted to doing agencies in the first place. And I'm sure you're exposed to the same stuff that like a lot of people are in terms of like these gurus who teach people how to start agencies and stuff. And like you have the situation where you have people that are like, and God, I can't tell you, I don't think this is something you probably like, but it was like, like Russell Brunson's effect on the marketing industry with the whole concept of funnel hacking, I think is genuinely one of the worst things to happen to creativity in this space in the last 100 years.
Right.
But when you have all these situations where people are copying, it's like, how are you going to get an advantage? Again, it's like you're not doing something fundamentally different. It just becomes a spending contest at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'll give you, this is actually a perfect example of that. I had a client that was they were a family lawyer, and they hired me to do their radio buy, so media buy for them. And their competitor was crushing it, right? Because in Canada, compared to the US, now that I live here now, it's just there's a couple things that are different. First of all, it's not as competitive. Second of all, the business in Canada is infused with a lot of emotionalism, let's say. Whereas in America, it's very like, let's get this done.
Yeah.
And so in Canada, it's kind of easier to compete in a lot of ways. And so I had this client and they were like, listen, this guy's spending so much money, he's getting all these leads. And I said to him, hey, who's initiating divorces? And we looked it up and it was like 71% of divorces are initiated by women. And then we also did some further research and we found that the number one time when couples fight, I know you have a fiance, so you might be able to relate to this, is right after breakfast on the way to work. So if you're like a traditional commuter, you get in some fight about money and you like get in your car and go take off. So I said, well, why don't we just do the entire ad spend between the commuting time of about 7:30 to about 8:15 when all these people are just pissed off at their spouses, and we only targeted women. So we found like, we did creative that targeted women. We used a woman's voice. We went on a station that was 70% female, soccer mom. And we did these ads that were kind of infused with coded language around like, is your man making you angry? And it was massive success. Right?
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of like what you're talking about is just like this stuff, this creativity can't really be mimicked because it's like, yes, maybe ChatGPT would give you a similar idea, but the nuances of the actual ad of saying like, wait, we need a woman's voice. Wait, we need to kind of get these touch points. We need to hit this. And this is the kind of stuff that I love doing because it's just so fun to me, especially when you have a great client who has a good heart and you want to help them and you see them absolutely crush their competitor because they just have they just click these little nuances where the other guy was buying sports ads on sports stations because he was an egomaniac who wanted his buddies to hear him before the sports game. And meanwhile, 30% of divorces are getting initiated by men. Yeah. And so it's crazy, man. Like, I know it's kind of discursive. I went off there, but it's just so crazy nowadays. Like, you can't really mimic this stuff. I think you see a lot of these 22-year-old punks coming into the space and they're like, hey, I saw this thread on X. And it's like, yeah, but you can't mimic the fun nuances of understanding human psychology.